host this webinar today, and I'll let David say a little bit of welcome. After this initial welcome, we won't have our cameras on the whole time until the question and answer section. So David, you just want to say hi, and then I'll do my disclaimers?
Sure. Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to take a few minutes at the beginning of this presentation just to thank our hosts, the USDA Forest Service Forest Products Marketing Unit, and Ann Sarnicki for all her hard work. And thank you all for joining.
All right. So with that, let me just let you know that in accordance with the federal law and U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Forest Service is prohibited from discriminating on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or ability. And all prohibited now you see I put that beaver in there and I can't totally read my thing, but you understand that we will not tolerate any discrimination. And if you have any complaints regarding discrimination, there is information on the right-hand side of how to contact someone and voice those complaints. For the nitty-gritty for the webinar, if you are using your phone, you have the information there to dial in, and you will need to mute your computer speakers and microphone. If you have dialed in on the phone, I am going to mute all the lines during the presentation, but then at the end when we have question and answers, they will be unmuted and you'll be able to verbally ask your questions, and other folks will need to type them into the chat box. In addition, I need to let y'all know that we are recording this webinar. So, and also that in the future, the recording will be available. Dave will try to get it posted on the Heating the Midwest website, and I can send a link to anybody individually that is interested. So with that, I am going to mute all your phones except for Dave and myself. Dave, actually, if you might go on mute. You may need to *6 after I mute all the lines. We forgot to practice that. And for anybody else on the phone, if you did want to speak up while you're muted, you can *6 at any time. So let me do that. Hang on, now I just closed my phone. Okay. Sorry about that, Dave. I forgot to tell you that yesterday.
All participants are now in listen-only mode.
Okay.
Dave, are you there? Yes.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Oh, fantastic.
Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, folks, for joining us. Today's webinar is about the Midwest Biomass Exchange using an internet marketing place to help market woody and agricultural biomass. And we're just going to skip to the next slide. Ann, if you could play that video. I'd like to play a brief video that sums up the value proposition for the exchange. Now, this is a little tongue-in-cheek, so please bear with me. MBioX is a free marketplace for buying and selling woody biomass. You have biomass, we have customers. And so here's the happy farmer or sawmill owner producing a lot of biomass, but what to do with it? I know MBioX can help. Let's just post an ad on the exchange and connect with a prospective buyer magically through the power of the internet. And hopefully everything works out, funds get transferred, and the buyer is able to manufacture higher value goods or heat or industrial power, and everybody's happy. See their little happy dance. So that's the value proposition for the Midwest Biomass Exchange. Now let me tell you a little bit more about the site. So why do we have a need for the Midwest Biomass Exchange or any internet marketplace, mostly because there's a lot of biomass that is produced out there. And sometimes it's hard for buyers and sellers to connect. In fact, millions of tons of biomass are produced each year, woody and agricultural residues, and it all has to go somewhere. Certainly, the woody residues that are produced at sawmills and at manufacturing facilities, they all have to be disposed of. And it's only half true for the agricultural residues. Some of that can stay on the farm. Some of it, like used bedding and litter for livestock, that needs to go somewhere also. In fact, in the EIA, the Energy Information Agency's 2016 billion-ton report, they gave estimates for agricultural crop residue production of around 30 million tons, dry tons in 2017, and they modeled growth in production of agricultural residues under high-yield scenarios of up to 1 billion dry tons per year by 2040. Agricultural waste resources were estimated as 34 million dry tons being produced in 2017, and that's the agricultural waste resources included manure, cotton residues, grain residues, straw, various types of grain hulls, sugar cane field trash, orchard and vineyard prunings, a lot of crop residue. Forest residues were estimated, production was estimated as up to 18 million dry tons per year, 18 million dry tons in 2017, excluding residues on federal lands. Wood waste sources, meaning removals from land that's not forest land, from urban areas, rights-of-way, cities, street trees. Mill residues, urban construction and demolition materials, that material was estimated as 36 million dry tons per year in that 2016 billion-ton report under the base scenarios. So there's a lot of residue out there that could be available. Now, for many wood-using manufacturers, millwork shops, cabinet shops, residues end up being an expense for disposal, and it's helpful to try to find paying outlets to defray some of that cost. For sawmills and other primary manufacturers, residues pose another problem. You can either physically run out of space to stockpile residues, bark, chips, sawdust, on site, and that can begin to interfere with mill operation. Or another hazard is that if green residues are piled too high and for too long, they do have a chance of spontaneously combusting. This is a picture of one of the recent feedstock pile fires at the Grayling Generation Plant. I think it was 2016. So getting rid of residues is an ongoing concern. Residues also provide an opportunity for additional sales revenue, and there are a number of markets for residues. At least in the milling industry, clean wood residues can be sold for pulp and paper, composite board products like OSB, particle board, medium density fiber board, or MDF, the material that a lot of cabinets and millwork are made out of, and hardboard, the stuff that we use for dry erase boards. Clean residues are also used for making wood pellets for heating and for barbecue use and for industrial heat. Smaller operations have investigated markets for their clean residues, clean chips, clean sawdust for making briquettes, fuel logs, and bricks. And you can see those marketed in some of the big box stores and the local feed stores. Wood residues that include bark or dirty chips, there are fewer market outlets for those. Landscape mulch, livestock bedding, use for boiler fuel or for power generation. Those are the major outlets for residues that include bark. Also, residential firewood is see an awful lot of slab wood available for sale. Lesser known outlets or smaller volumes go to compost manufacturing and to biochar. Biochar has a lot of interest these days, at least in some circles, and also as media for filling sediment filter socks as a replacement for the silt fence that you see at construction sites. An awful lot of woody biomass goes to the biomass power market. And in 2016, the EIA estimated that about 2% of the U.S.'s power production came from biomass feedstocks. And that power, they produced about 71.4 billion kilowatt hours, or 71.4 million megawatts. Agricultural crop residues offer an opportunity for additional on-farm revenue, and arguably, the volume of ag residues produced in many states exceeds the volume of wood residues. Crop residues can be produced sustainably, but availability is often linked to the price that farmers would receive per ton. Just like in the woody biomass market, hauling distance is a major limiting factor. Now, this table on this slide is from a 1999 study in Minnesota, and it's here. We're using it here just to help illustrate that relationship between availability of agricultural residues and the price offered per ton. Here, you can see it's. Ann, is that green arrow available to point to things? Here we go. This is it. So you can see here the quantity available in dry tons per year at $30 per dry ton, $60 a green ton. You can see that that study showed that no residues, agricultural residues, would be available. But if you get up to about $40 per dry ton, then a fair quantity starts to become available. And so, if you have residues and you're looking for opportunities to broaden your network of sales contacts, looking for additional outlets, MBioX can help. Now, MBioX's value proposition, I'll make the pitch for you. What distinguishes the Midwest Biomass Exchange from other internet marketplaces? What makes it valuable for you to join and consider participating in the Midwest Biomass Exchange? Well, the Midwest Biomass Exchange is a free internet marketplace. It can help you extend your sales or procurement network. It is transparent, meaning that in this case, I'm referring to the website itself. Users don't have to register. You can go on the exchange website, browse the listings, see the types of biomass that are available for sale, look at the relative proximity of the listings to your location, and decide for yourself if it's worth joining. The Midwest Biomass Exchange's functionality allows a fairly safe way to communicate with potential sales prospects. We have a secure utility for emailing users on the exchange. So if you find a listing that you're interested in, you can use that email utility, and it will shield your actual email address from the prospective buyer, so you won't get any spam from those that are just trolling the internet. And I'll tell you more about that as we go through this presentation. The Midwest Biomass Exchange is focused mostly on woody and agricultural biomass. We won't find a whole lot of extra stuff or chaff, to use the agricultural parlance, in the exchange. The focus is on the U.S. and Canada. Although a strong focus on the Midwest, we will accept ads for biomass and wanted ads from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. And that focus is primarily to come in line with the service area for heating the Midwest. Heating the Midwest is, by its name, an organization focused on using biomass for industrial heat in residential heat in the Midwestern states, but also to avoid a lot of other complications that come with trying to screen and verify the authenticity of inquiries from international buyers and deal with the complexities of international trade. So that focus is kind of self-serving as well. I'll give you a little history on the Midwest Biomass Exchange. How did we get here? How did heating the Midwest get involved in revamping an internet marketplace? It all began with the Minneapolis Biomass Exchange, which is a very successful marketplace that had been initiated by AURI in Minnesota in partnership with the Minnesota Clean Energy Resource Team, or CERTS. So they developed an initial biomass exchange on the internet, and later on they were contacted by a young man named Kevin Triemstra, who expressed interest in collaborating on developing a more interactive website. However, there ended up being some issues with converting a website that was funded by a state-sponsored grant to a for-profit platform. So Kevin developed a separate website with an interest in facilitating biomass sales and brokerage service and offering brokerage services as part of that business plan. However, over time, he became involved in other things, took on a new job, moved to California, and that's where he remains today. But he retained an interest in supporting biomass markets, and he maintained the Minneapolis Biomass Exchange until around 2016, when Heating the Midwest, being involved in trying to stimulate use of woody biomass, ran across the website in one of their action teams. And Heating the Midwest approached Kevin, expressed interest in doing something similar in the Midwestern area but more closely focused on woody biomass and agricultural biomass. The Minneapolis Biomass Exchange over time began to have more and more activity, mostly from sales, brokering sales of hay and other livestock feed materials. So Heating the Midwest, with Kevin's help, was able to come to agreement on transfer of the website. Let me switch to and I should say, the Minneapolis Biomass Exchange was very successful, had more than 240 listings from all over the world, and by all accounts was fairly innovative in its time. So after coming to agreement with Kevin on transfer of the website, HTM entered a licensing agreement and began with Kevin and began to update the website using funds provided by the USDA Forest Products Marketing Unit. We contracted with some developers to revamp some of the code and help refocus and rebrand the site. And the earlier contractors included Kevin Triemstra and Venkatram Akinini from Premier IT and Doug Pavilion from Metakarma, later through Upwork, or through Upwork and then later through Metakarma. Those were all business names. At any rate, it took some work, and we think they've done a tremendous job, and I'll try to explain some of the changes. But the key things are, we refocused the website on HDM's member states, Heating the Midwest member states, shown here in this image, and on woody and agricultural fuels for biomass. So we purged all of the hay and obvious livestock feed listings that were on the old exchange. We also made some other changes to try to improve the way that biomass listings were described in the website, make it clearer and easier for folks to find the materials they wanted. So we added a category to the feedstock description. So now we have a feedstock type or category, and we also clarified and added to the specific feedstock choices or products that are listed on the website. And we added Heating the Midwest social media account links, so Facebook, Twitter, and you can see their tweet listing down here at the bottom of the home page. Oh, I should say, let me back up here. So when you get to the first page, you'll notice a number of items. In the landing page in the upper left, you'll see this three rotating panes in this window that include listings to or links to our About Us page and Heating the Midwest. Learn a little bit more about the exchange and Heating the Midwest. You'll find a map showing the service area that was shown on the previous slide, and you'll see a short video, the one that we showed at the beginning of this webinar, describing the site. You also see, if I can find that arrow, here there are links for creating a listing and viewing all listings under both the For Sale pane and the Wanted pane. And here on the home page, these listings, these are the most recent listings on the site, both Wanted and For Sale. Up here on in the title bar and the banner section on the home page, you'll see a link called Support. Under that, you'll find frequently asked questions, more about us here, and a sample biomass contract. Biomass supply contract, I should say. All right, so if you click on that link for View All Listings, this page will result, and you'll see listings are organized there by distance from your location. There's a box here for you to enter a zip code for your location, or you could just type in your town name and state in plain English, and hopefully it will recognize that. This is tied to Google Maps, and that's how we get these distances that show up. So it shows the listings in relation to how far they are from you. Then you have a category for describing the types of biomass and specific products within category for each biomass. Some indication of the frequency of the availability of that biomass. And here under the seller column, right now it just says, if you just are viewing this first time going to the website, you'll see it just says, sign in to view seller. If you register, you can see the actual seller's username. If you click on Map View over here, a Google Map page will pop up with the little red balloons showing the locations of the biomass listings. Now this location, let's see, where the heck is my green arrow? There it is. Hold still, Ann. I got it. Okay, these little red balloons, that location comes from the zip code that the person creating the listing enters on the exchange feedstock form when they're creating the listing. So just something to keep in mind. It's just a zip code. It's not exactly accurate. You'll see down here there are plus arrows, minus arrows. You can scroll in and out to view more wider area or zoom in if you want to see what this little blue dot is. The blue symbols indicate more than one listing in that location, that general location. And if you zoom in, they should turn into little red balloons. Okay. Now, if you also, let's see if I can find my arrow again. If you hover over a little red balloon, you'll see a little dialog box will pop up that gives a brief description of the listing. If you want to see more about the listing, you'll see it says see more details. That's a link. You click on that link, and you'll be sent to the full listing for that user's biomass. So you see here this listing is for woody residue chips. Wood residue is the category. Chips is a specific product. That person is offering 500,000 tons, and they're available right now, and it's happening. It's a reoccurring quantity, and it doesn't say exactly how often. In the description details, there would be an option when you create the listing to give a little bit more detail on how often that quantity is available. The location of the lister, this material is available from a location in Sandstone, Minnesota. You can get some additional details here. Ash content, I don't believe, remains in the options, but moisture content is one of the options you can select. And this person is saying it's up to 50% moisture content. Delivery is not available, and you could contact the seller if you wanted to by signing in, and then you can use our email utility to ask more about this listing. So signing in. Over here, there's on the in the upper right, you'll see there's a link for sign in, and you'd be prompted to either register. I have to move my green arrow. Sign in or register to become a registered user, and then you'll be able to view the seller's username and actually send them an email. Here it is, an example of signing into your account. Don't everyone try to sign in as Dave Newman. Trust me, we'll never figure out the password. Once you sign in, then you can see the seller's name, Carlson Timber, and you have some indication of when they were last on the website, so how frequently they've been active on the site. And in this case, this listing, the user hasn't been on the site, hasn't been active on the site in the last 3 months. There's a link for sending a message. And if you've decided, no, this isn't for me, you can always use these links here to go back to either your own listings or all of the for sale listings or the wanted listings, or create a new listing. Okay. So if you decide you want to, let me back up. If you want to send a message, you click the link for send a message. And then our email utility pops up. And you'll type in your message here in this dialog box. There's a checkbox down here at the bottom that has an option to send a copy to your own email address. And what happens when you finish typing your message and clicking send, this message will be sent to the inbox for that user within the Exchange website, and it will be copied to their personal or work email address that they used to register for the site. So it prevents this functionality will prevent some unwanted spam from bombing your mailbox from anyone just surfing the internet. Okay, Tempted to hit send myself just now. Okay, if you want to go further and actually create a for sale or want ad on the site, go back to the home page, and if I can find my green arrow again, here it is. On that home page, you can click Create a Listing under For Sale or over here under Wanted, and either one will work. And a box will pop up, a form will pop up that you'll fill out with information for the type of biomass you want to buy or sell. Now, the first option is to select a feedstock type or category. In those categories, there are many, quite a few, and I'll go through those on the next slide. But you'll see a number of categories offered there for a specific or for feedstock type. Then your next you'll select a specific feedstock or a specific product. Now, all of the categories and specific feedstock types or products are listed on our frequently asked questions page. So if you go to our home page, and in the upper right corner, you'll see a link for support. Under that, you'll see frequently asked questions or FAQ. Click on that and scroll down in the resulting page. You'll see this question: what types of biomass can I list on your site? And those categories include mill and manufacturer residues, timber harvest residues, urban and right-of-way, trimming and tree removals, pellets, briquettes, and pressed fuel logs. Let's see. Recycled wood, wood energy crops, grass energy crops, ag crop residues, used livestock bedding. And I believe that's the last one. And then there are many other categories within that. For example, under agricultural crop residues, there are corn cobs, corn stover, fruit pits, grass screenings, malting byproducts, oat hulls, rice hulls, soybean stover. I didn't even know what stover was. Well, not to be confused with stovetop stuffing, but manufacturer stovetop stuffing. I cracked myself up. At any rate, so you can select what type of the category and the specific product to describe your biomass. The next step is to move on and describe the quantity of biomass that you want to sell if you're in the quantity box. And the units, tons, number of bales, truckloads, some unit to describe that quantity. So we're looking for a number and quantity and then a unit. We ask for a price per unit. We don't make that public. We just use that internally for developing additional information about woody and agricultural biomass. So that's something we keep private, but we do require some type of price to be listed, at least when you create the listing. Moisture content range. Here it's described as minimum to maximum moisture content, and there's some categories that you can choose from that sort of makes sense from a woody and agricultural biomass standpoint. And then there's a box for describing, verbally describing, providing more information about the product you intend to sell or that you want to buy. Next, you'll have an option to choose frequency, one time versus reoccurring, so it's just those two choices. Then there's a text box you can fill in for frequency details. You could put in, for an example, per year, per month, weekly, daily. And there's a checkbox for is the delivery available, and that's just a yes/no toggle. No issue if you don't want to commit to delivery. And then you'll have an option to describe your plant's location. Again, this is used for the. We want you to enter a zip code for your location, the location of that you're going to ship from, and that's primarily for the mapping purposes. Pardon me for a second, folks, while I cough a little bit here. I'm going to. All right. And let me just pause there and ask if there are any questions. Ann, could you help folks unmute?
Yes, right now everybody's in mute, and if you dialed it on the phone, you can *6 to ask a question or type in the chat box. I see we have a question, looks like, coming in here, Dave. Please feel free to speak up if you have a question. I don't know what happened to her.
Well, if there are no other questions, I guess we could just continue on.
And if folks just type in, go ahead and, oh, do you see Kate's question, Dave? Is the website is that incorrect, or I can retype it, or you can?
What is the link to the website? It should be www.mbiox.com. I had that trouble last night. I thought it was just my internet. That's the correct address for the website, and it should be working.
Huh.
We're paying for it to work. I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and check it, too, as we carry on here. And folks, feel free to continue to put questions in the chat box, and we can grab those at the end then, too. All right,
Okay,
Dave, I'll let you carry on.
All right. There are a few other resources on the BioExchange website. They're under the support menu on the home page. There's a frequently asked questions page that has many of the commonly asked questions. There are a few demonstration videos for how to use the site. There's a sample biomass supply contract, and we added a page that describes quality control lab services and provides some listings there for quality control services in Midwestern states. So it is recommended that when you consider entering into an agreement to buy biomass, that you can, if the product you intend to make is sensitive and has pretty tight requirements, it's worthwhile getting a sample tested, representative sample tested from the prospective supplier. And there are quality control labs that will help you do that. And that's not a service that Heating Midwest or the exchange is able to offer, but we've tried to provide some links to sources that can help you with that. So how does Midwest Biomass Exchange work? I'm going to make a pitch to you here. Heating the Midwest is a nonprofit. Heating the Midwest mission is to encourage the use of woody biomass for heat and power in the Midwestern states and promote the growth of the industry generally. I'm paraphrasing quite a bit, but that's essentially its mission. And it undertook support and redevelopment of the exchange in line with that mission. The exchange itself does need some annual support just to keep up with the ongoing changes in software, coding, repair things that go wrong. For instance, today it sounds like you can't get to the exchange. We do have some ongoing expenses for developer time to keep it on the web and running smoothly. Some of the code that the exchange was written in is pretty antiquated now, and we know that we're going to have to start replacing chunks of it with the current code that's in vogue, basically. We anticipate expenses being about $5,000 a year to host the site and do that annual maintenance and continually invest in upgrades to improve the functionality and value for users of the exchange. So what Heating Midwest proposes is to seek sponsorships to help support that ongoing maintenance and continual improvement from buyers, sellers, and other industry folks that would benefit from use of the site. Let me switch to the next page. So we hope to seek about 10 sponsors per year and recognize sponsors through ad placement on the Biomass Exchange website. And you can see a couple of examples here. Let me grab my arrow again. Down here on the listings page and on the home page, you'll find scattered throughout the site. They're not all populated, but we've created 6 ad panes at various locations on the pages for the exchange. Pardon me, I'll cough a little bit here. And what we would propose is that sponsors, in exchange for placing an ad on the exchange, we'll let the ad run for a year, 1 year at a time, and we'll rotate the sponsors through the 6 ad panes on the exchange so that everyone gets front page or home page visibility in exchange for about $500 per sponsor. And so that's our pitch. We are seeking sponsorship. If you would like to support the Midwest Biomass Exchange, please feel free to send me a note after this presentation is over, or contact Heating the Midwest, and we would be happy to talk to you about how we can partner together. All right, and also if you are interested in participating in the exchange and have questions about how to create an ad or access the site, hopefully when the exchange is actually working on the internet, again, send me a note and I would be happy to help you. Here's our own version of a chipper. That's my portable chipping machine. I understand that there are commercial uses for chips. That's what the exchange is intended to be for, to help producers of woody and agricultural biomass find higher value added uses for that material and strengthen the supply chain in general in forestry and agriculture. With that, I'd like to acknowledge some of the people and the organizations that have made this project possible. I would like to thank the USDA Forest Service Forest Products Marketing Unit, whose financial support helped us redevelop the Minneapolis Biomass Exchange and turn it into today's product. I'd like to thank the steering committee and board member and action team members for Heating the Midwest. We had a lot of technical assistance and advice and mentoring from Kevin Triemstra, the former owner of the Minneapolis Biomass Exchange, and from the developers, Premier IT, Venkat, and Doug. I'd also like to thank the members of our project team, Becky Phillip and Alan During from AURI, Christian Bergstrand, my counterpart in the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and Sabina Dongana from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, both very talented utilization and marketing specialists in their states. And that's all I have for today. Thanks, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Dave. I'm just switching to a little different view here because I didn't know if you were going to put your camera back on, so I have your picture, but we welcome your camera now if you would like to do that. And I will unmute all the lines so people can just go ahead and speak up, or again, keep typing questions in the chat box. if you are online.
All participants are now in interactive talk mode.
Yeah, I had to get my mask on. If Doug's here, if my boss is on the webinar, I had it on all along. So
It's up to you. Patrick did have a question, which I think he was a plant because you answered it almost immediately after he posed a question. So that was pretty good, David.
okay. Well, thanks,
Again,
folks. If there are any questions, feel free to contact me afterward if you don't feel comfortable speaking up now. We'd also welcome your input anytime on how we can improve the quality and utility of the Biomass Exchange, using my expressive eyebrows again.
And we can't see you. You didn't start your webcam. You're in preview only.
Start? Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right, thank you.
I had to hit the start sharing button. At any rate, we'd welcome your input anytime on how to improve the Midwest Biomass Exchange, add functionality, add utility to users, and also certainly if you have any comments about this presentation, please share them, and be happy to use that input for improving future webcasts.
And David, you plan to send out a little survey to folks.
That's correct.
Later.
Look for a quick internet survey from me toward the end of this week, just asking a few questions about how this webinar was for your needs. Are there things that we should have talked more about? Are there things that you'd like to see in future webinars?
And if folks have a chance to log in between now and getting that email from David, you can provide additional input about the website too. And hopefully everybody will be able to log in, which I've never had any trouble, so I don't know. Getting a few typings in here. I don't know if there's any more questions. Again, if you are online only and not on the phone, I won't be able to hear we won't be able to hear your questions. You'll have to type those in the chat box. But if you have called in on the phone, you can speak up.
Well, thanks everybody. Doesn't look like there are any, so we'll call it a day. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ann.
Also, David can provide the link to the recording when he sends the email. So, thanks, everybody.
Fantastic.
Thank you, David.
Have a great day. Yep.